so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you.
Hey kids, welcome back to Thoughts for Rent, Realtors Keeping It Real. I'm Max Zerflu and this is
Jenni McKenna, and today we're going to talk about marriage, management, and mayhem. You know why?
Oh, I froze there for a second because you scared me. We're going to talk about marriage, the two of us being married and both working in real estate and both working in the same company and how that can possibly work.
And let's not forget that when I started in real estate, I worked with my dad. So I've gone dad, I've gone husband, I have two of my kids that work in the company.
Right, but you work for your dad with your dad, and now you work with me. So that's definitely a step up. So you're doing good now.
Yeah.
Just hopefully he doesn't watch this podcast.
Not really. Sorry.
Does he know how to get on a podcast?
I think he does.
No, but seriously, folks, today we're going to talk about how Jenni and I navigate our marriage and our relationship and our friendship and a partnership together in business, working together as realtors in a property management company and a sales company. That's what we're going to talk about. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be wild. One of the things that I always think is crazy about our life is our professional life never ends. So when we're having dinner, we're usually talking about either goals that we want for the company, or we're talking about the problems that we've had at the company. It becomes a lot. So how do we get through that? How come we're still married after 33 years?
Because I'm a very patient man.
Oh, bullpucky. I don't think that's the case.
We must say, you are more apt to talk about work, about things that are bugging you, about the company, staff, all that stuff, more so than I am. I think, like we used to always have a lesson in church. We used to go and say, when you come home from work, just touch the tree in your front yard. And that's where you leave all your troubles, then walk into the house. And when you leave the next morning, you can touch that tree again and start thinking about work. I don't think you've touched the tree lately.
Well, I am going to do a TO.
Time out.
No, I want to go technical.
Technical
I want to
foul?
go technical foul. Because so many times you go to dinner and you are saying things that are going wrong with the escrow or an inspection that went wrong. And the thing that frustrates me is you bring it up as a question and I want to help you and I give you my advice and then you're like, no, that's not the way we're going to handle it.
You seem very fired up right now, Jenni. I'm going to call it technical on you. Let's keep it real here. Let's keep it Thoughts for Real or Thoughts for Rent.
Is it really? Thoughts for real?
Keep it real. Yes. Well, obviously both of us talk about work. Obviously it can get frustrating. What I think we do good is that we'll talk about it, but then when either one of us gets a little fed up with listening to it at home, we'll step away. We'll say, I think we should stop talking about work for now. Let's take a little break off of that. So having the ability to turn that switch off is very important. But you can't get away from real estate. Real estate is a 24/7 job. You know, everybody on sales, I'm on sales. You own a property management company.
Correct.
So it's a little different. However, on sales, it's a 24/7 job. People get into real estate because they say, I want to write my own schedule. I'm going to make my own schedule. I'm going to be my own boss. Well, guess what? You can be your own boss, but when your customers need you, when your clients need you, you got to be there for them. So we'll be sitting around the house watching a TV show at 9:30, and I might get a message on my phone that I got to go draw up a document. So at 9:45 in my office at home, I'm drawing up a document. Same thing can happen to you in your company.
I think that because I came from a background of real estate before I got into property management, when that occurs, I never get upset about that. There might be other marriages.
You mean when I go off and do that?
Yeah, when you go off and say, oh, I got to write a contract before we go to bed, or a counter offer or whatever. That to me is great. I'm excited about that. That's not a problem. I'm always okay with you doing that because I think I know about that in the past.
You sure you're not also okay with it because you get some time away from me for a little bit? That could be possible.
Could be. But, I'll even stop a really good show that we're watching.
And wait. Yeah, that's right. That's true.
And I don't complain about it. You have to give me kudos for that.
This isn't a competition. You understand this?
Today's
podcast
is always a competition.
We have no scoreboard. We just have a nice mural behind us, not a scoreboard.
No, today we had Fun Friday and I was an absolute loser on what we were doing. I did not get anything right. So this is a competition. It's bled over into a competition. So here we go.
Yes. Well, that could be one of the successful things one of the things that helps us be successful in our relationship and our marriage is that you're very competitive. And while I like to be right and I'll argue a point or I'll try to get my 2 bits in there, I'm nowhere near as competitive as you are. So I think if you had 2 people as
That's true.
Is your neck hurt? Are you good?
No,
you got a thing?
I'm nodding.
I think if you had 2 people as competitive and also passionate and feisty and fiery as you, then we may have a problem.
I agree.
2 people that are the same, I think it's difficult in a relationship.
No, I agree with you. And Max is right. If you are in a situation where you are living with the person that you're working with, and that's happening a lot, especially because people are doing remote working, they're actually in the same house. Mm-hmm. I like when I am getting fired up, and I like to say just really passionate about what I believe. I like how you just come over to me and you hug me sometimes and just say, okay, you need to calm down. We can take care of this tomorrow. Nobody's on the operation table. Nobody's dying tonight. Let's just take a breath, and you will stop me from continuing that conversation of whatever happened that day.
I mean, we have to remember real estate is very important to a lot of people. On my side, it's the largest investment they might make. On your side, you're managing their big investments. So it's very important.
And
it's not brain surgery.
Right.
So we just got to, sometimes you got to.
There are times where, I do have a team that takes care of the after hours phones, but when there is a true emergency, we've had fires at properties. We've had floods at properties. And
police raids.
We've had police raids. That's true. Well, we should talk a little bit about that. But yeah, we've had a lot over the course of these 20 years. I know that I step in because you have to. Sometimes you just have to.
For sure.
I mean, at 2:00 in the morning when we went down to meet the police squad.
It was a late Saturday night. It became a late Saturday night date night for us. We sat in our car about just across the street from this rental that had some issues going on, some criminal issues.
Yeah.
And we got to sit in our car and watch all the SWAT teams, the K9s, the surveillance, everything pull up. So it was exciting, but it was also
four and a half hours
something
of just
else
sitting there.
We did together. So
yes.
There you go. We can always, we'll always have that house to remember.
We will always have that. We'll have the flood that happened where somebody just decided to take the kitchen faucet off and couldn't understand why water wasn't stopping everywhere. And it flooded
right. And
not only their property, but the property down below as well.
You talk about late nights, this company started 20 years ago, if you can believe that.
Correct.
Craziness. The property management company.
Correct.
You and your father were in business long before that. But early days when you were managing and growing the company, you'd come home to our house. For a couple of years, I was a stay-at-home dad before I got into real estate. But you'd come home. We'd have some dinner with the kids. You'd tuck them in, do some family stuff. And then I'd say 3 out of 5 days of the week, you'd go back to the office because we only lived about a mile away, and you'd be there till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'd be like, when's my wife coming home?
You have to, though.
And based on that effort, now you've grown to, one of the biggest, if not the biggest property management company in Las Vegas. So you got to do it.
You got to do it. And you know what? I would not have been able to do it if I didn't have the support of you. So that also goes into when you have a very good, solid marriage and you're on a good foundation, then you can ask for the leniency when you are doing something like building a company. Mm-hmm. Because I don't care who you are. A company is not going to be built overnight. It's just like I always say, Rome wasn't built in one day.
Oh, you said that. You came up with that?
I've heard that.
Oh, you? Okay. Sorry. Wow.
I guess I should take credit
Quite a
for
prophecy.
That. I could get into trouble for that. But Rome wasn't built in a day. And there is no company that I know of that I've been affiliated with that grows fast. You have to put your sacrifice. You have to put your time in. You have to be passionate about it. And sometimes those things do probably aggravate your partner. But as long as your partner will give some grace on it for a short period of time, then you will have the benefits of what that is.
Yeah. I like that. Give them grace.
Yeah, give a little
grace. Well, that's
grace.
true for any relationship, not 2 people that are working together in real estate. You got to be able to give. If you're a spouse and you refuse, you just put up a wall and say, "I'm doing it my way, and I don't care what you want." I mean, that's bound to fail.
But I do know, and I'm not putting my mom and dad on the spot here. Maybe I am a little bit.
Sounds like you're about to put your mom and dad on the spot.
I know that when we would go out together, my mom, my dad, My dad being the official partner of, and the
mentor, yeah,
the mentor
sure, yeah.
and the
founder
of the McKenna team real estate.
He's the
team.
man.
He's the man.
Yeah.
We would go out to dinner, and Dad and I would start talking about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really remember you getting too frustrated with it, but I do remember my mom being frustrated.
Sure.
My mom would be like, why don't you guys just talk about this at the office? And in my mind, I'm like, we don't have time to talk about this at the office.
Well,
we're out doing stuff nonstop, email, looking at property, communicating on the phone. And so when I used to get Dad for an hour at dinner,
mm-hmm.
that was sacred time for me. So it is nice that
I remember
you were open to that.
I remember Sunday dinners at your folks' house. After dinner, we'd sit around the table for a long time, and you guys would talk about business. All the time.
We did. And I think I got a lot of rolling eyes.
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Why?
Because usually if you were talking about business, you had a lot of business and you were getting paid for it.
Okay.
So.
Then you had a good outlook for
Let's
that.
go.
Yeah. So I do think that it can cause a lot of problems if you're not careful about making sure that you give that other person some grace. You also have some boundaries. The other person that is passionate needs to understand when the wall is being put up or the boundary is being acknowledged. They can't get upset about it. They need to just breathe and say, look, I get it. We'll talk about this again tomorrow. And you know what? Tomorrow, it may not be as big of a deal. It's a big deal when it's happening. When the AC is out on a rental, it's 117 degrees outside. Mm-hmm. And that individual has tracked me down and is calling me every 15 minutes. It becomes like over encompassing. But the next day, it's not that big of a deal.
It brings us back to the Napoleon, who was a world leader. You've heard of Napoleon?
I do.
Short little French dude.
Yes.
He would get letters out from the battlefield at this headquarters, and mail would only come every couple of weeks because they didn't have. But he'd get mail, and he'd get a letter, and it would say, "Hey, I got this problem. I got this guy's misbehaving. I got this. I get that." He'd just put the letter aside and say, if I don't hear anything back about this in 2 more weeks, then it will have been handled. So sometimes you have to be able to go, let's just take a breath and let's see what happens. Let's see if this thing will resolve itself.
So I have a question. Do you think it's a good idea that husband and wives get into business together?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Wow.
I think you and I have made it work, and we've made it work. But I bet if you did some averages, I bet in many cases it doesn't work.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I'm surprised that you said that.
Let me ask you, Jenni, do you think husbands and wives should go into business together?
I do. And the reason I say yes to that is because you're growing something together. So the pains are the same. The achievements are celebrated together. Mm-hmm. For instance, if you didn't have the mindset of real estate, and you didn't know escrows and inspections and all that kind of jazz, when I would come home and talk about real estate, you would probably only grasp 10, 15% of what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But when we talk about it now, you're 100% in. When you talk to me, I'm 100% in. So I feel like done right, it can be a huge benefit.
It can make life interesting, more interesting, because I assume if we're in 2 different careers, or if I'm a stay-at-home father and you come home for your career, I probably would like to talk about what I did all day, and you probably would like to talk about what you did all day, and there could be some conflict there. And there's also some people come home and don't want to talk about anything at all. They just want to chill. That's not our house, to be clear.
No.
To be clear. I usually get home before Jenni. Usually as she's on her way home, she'll call. Well, not usually, maybe often. She'll call while she's on the drive home, and we'll start talking about the problems she had at work or the issues she had with staff. And I'll give her some of the things that I had problems with, and we'll talk and talk and talk. and then I'll hear the garage door open, and I'll go, okay, I see you're home now. Shall we continue this in person? And then we'll hang up. And then it continues.
That really is the truth. He's telling the truth.
I think it's a little better lately. I think maybe it's a little better lately, I think.
Maybe there's not as many problems that are going on. Knock on wood. Woo! There we go. Let me ask this question then. We've got your view on husband and wife being involved in a business together. What about your children? We have 2 children that work with McKenna Property Management. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think that if you have a business that is successful and has opportunities for your children, and it's something they want to do, I think you should include your children. It goes back to the old Johnson and Sons or Sanford and Sons. That's a TV show, but people would bring their kids into the business. Now we know of scenarios where kids don't want to be involved in the business.
Correct.
And that's fine. Our oldest daughter is not involved in the business. Our middle daughter and our son both are. So I think if the opportunity is there, I feel like you really should involve family, because as much as you could say, oh, it could be conflict, we might not get along, there's a certain bond that you have with your family. I mean, you could pick me, but you couldn't pick your kids.
Correct.
So there's a certain bond there. And I think that's pretty special. And if that can translate over to the workplace, then great. Do you think it's a good idea?
I think that's harder with your children than it is with the husband or a father. I think it's been harder to navigate the children aspect working in the company than it was bringing on the husband and working with my dad.
And that could just be an individual situation, those individuals, and created that. It could be that somebody in your exact position might say, it's been easier and been more comfortable working with my children than it was working with my father. You just never know, because people are people and they're different.
True. I would say that when somebody is thinking about bringing on one of their children into the company,
Mm-hmm.
I think you've got to really set boundaries, more so than even in a marriage.
Boundaries?
Boundaries.
What kind of boundaries?
I don't think it's a good idea to spend mom and daughter or mom and son time talking about work. We're in a marriage. I'm totally okay with that.
I got a technical foul here.
No.
Wait, you think it's a bad idea to talk about work outside of the workplace?
With your children.
But you
Because I'll tell you why.
But you do that. Oh.
I've been working on it.
Okay.
I've been working on it. Because I'll tell you from my experience. I believe that there is a relationship that needs to grow with your children that is about their hobbies, about their loves and their passion. Mm. And sometimes when they only want to talk to you because you're their boss, right? Yeah. And you're talking about work, you're eliminating a whole aspect of their life. And I feel like I've made that mistake. And so that's what I'm working on. So for anyone that's listening, if you're thinking about bringing a child on, I would really recommend that you set up a time once a week, maybe, to sit down an hour and just have that conversation about work. And then when you go out to dinner at a family event, really work on not bringing up work. Now, if there was a funny experience.
Well, I was going to say, it's so hard because we have so many things that we laugh about.
And I'm okay with that.
Week,
Yeah, like if there's an experience, for instance, somebody sent in a video and said my fridge isn't big enough, and they put their head in the fridge and then showed you that, look, I'm hitting my head on the top of the fridge.
And that'll be a funny anecdote that the people that are not within the business, the spouses, the friends, they can enjoy that.
Yes.
But if you're sitting at a table and you and your son are talking about how the field agents are doing,
right?
The other people are going to be like, oh.
But I've had the tendency to do that because in my brain, nothing ever shuts off when it comes to property management or real estate. I'm always thinking,
or anything.
Really. What can I do next? How can I make it better? What problem was there that I need to solve? And let's solve it now. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation would be don't make that mistake that I made.
Try not to, yeah.
And try and make sure that you have those boundaries with your kids. Your kids are your kids. When they walk through the door, they're an employee or a team member. And try and keep that as separated as possible.
Sage advice. You're wise beyond your years, Jenni.
But it's weird that you and I, as husband and wife, can work.
Well, I thought you said it was a good idea to work with your wife.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like how you and I can make it work, where we can talk about work all the time and never feel like that's a negative thing. But then you bring a child in, and then it becomes sort of negative.
It doesn't have to be. Again, it's individuals. It's just how it works out. I mean, sometimes I want to just look at you and go, okay, let's just stop. And I have before. I have done that.
Yes.
Because like you have said, you're very passionate and the light switch never goes off. So, I appreciate that sometimes I can say, hey, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's just move on. You know what I mean? But I also think we're in a very lucky situation because we're in an industry where there's a lot of fun stuff that happens, a lot of successes. if I close an escrow or I get a house under contract, those are things that I can share with you, and you're going to share my joy, partly because you've had it before. If you were just a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker, and I come and said, "Hey, I sold a house today," you wouldn't get anywhere near the joy you do had you not been involved in the industry.
Correct.
So I think that understanding really has been important.
And that goes the other way when a escrow falls out. I understand how that feels as well. Or if you haven't really lived or walked in those shoes, you're kind of like, okay, well, Max, you lost an escrow, move on. But I get
Go get another one.
I get it that you need to take a couple days and understand all that work that went in, that you're not going to see anything come out of it. So I think it goes both ways, the achievements and then also understanding sometimes, that failing forward that you need to do once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we got to laugh. You got to smile. You got to be happy about stuff. If all you ever do is go home to your spouse, whether you're working with them or not, and all you ever do is complaining and talking about the negative, that's going to be very tiresome. So bring in funny moments, happy moments, laughter, something a staff member did that was unbelievable. Make sure you bring both sides of the coin into the conversation.
Yep. Spice it up is what I like to say. Both sides of the coin. I like it.
Yeah, both sides of the coin. Rome wasn't built. We're nailing all these little.
I like
spice it up. Summary though, Jenni, because we're about to the end of our episode. You initially asked me, "Do you think a husband and wife should work together?" And I was like, and I think if you can make it work, it can be pretty cool because you and I will go on vacation. I got to assume that people go on vacation and they don't have their work environment to talk about with their spouse. I bet the conversation can kind of dry, kind of slow down a little bit. You and I it's hard for us to go 2 minutes without talking about either our life, our children, and we have that added topic of our work and our industry that we share. I think it really creates a fun environment. So I'm changing my answer.
Wow.
Work with your spouse if you can make it work.
I like it. I like that a lot. Well, then let's end this. If you guys have listened to this and you like what you're hearing or you found it to be interesting, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and share this episode with somebody. Maybe somebody who's thinking about getting into business together with their children or their spouse.
And don't forget, love is always the answer.
That is true.
And that's Realtors Keeping It Real. Thoughts for Rent. I'm Max Zerflu.
I'm Jenni McKenna.
You guys have a great time. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Oh, there you go. Sound good? Okay, good. I'll pass over to Ireland. Here you go, kid.
Thanks, Pops.